Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right. Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics and Right. I'm Egberto Willies, your host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show. We are going to have a great show for you today. Great show for you today. Anyway, let me go to my chat screen. Hello, let's see. Eric Hayes is in the house. Welcome aboard. King with a Tascasita. We also have Joe in the house from Los Angeles. She's indulging the fire. Michael Rudnick from Brooklyn, New York is in the house. My dear brother, thank you for always reminding me to put that share up on Blue Sky. Lee Grant has just joined us from Montgomery County. And I don't see, let's see, as more people come in the chat, I will call it out. Let's see. Welcome aboard our visitors on, not our visitors, or our kind watchers, listeners on Substack, or kind listeners on Twitter, X, or listeners on Instagram, as well as Facebook Live and everywhere else. Thank you so kindly for being here. Anyway, we're going to have a great show for you today. Let's see. Michael Rudin starts at Egberto, one for the screen. You don't play, man. You just are ready for the screen. And you know what? We better put that on the screen because that is what Brother Rodnan requested. And there it is for the screen. The impacts of climate change. Fossil fuel burning and industrial agriculture release greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. Deforestation, pollution, and resource extraction interrupt the natural sequestration of carbon back into the soil, plants, and ocean. Heat from the sun, which would normally escape into space, the infrared, is absorbed by greenhouse gases and re-radiated back to Earth's surface, causing a warming effect. Altered weather pattern from climate change create longer, hotter, and drier conditions in certain parts of the world, leading to more extreme wildfires and weather conditions in certain areas as well. We are in dire straits. A lot of it is man-made. So absolutely right. Michael Rodney says, he points out wildfires and climate change. Human-caused greenhouse gas emission from factories. I just went ahead and went through that cycle. Michael also said, WAPO, Biden extends protected status for nearly 1 million immigrants ahead of the Trump taking office. The move shields Venezuelans, Ukrainians, Salvadorians, and Sudanese from possible deportation for 18 months. Lawmakers and immigrants advocates had been urging the department to extend the protected designation for these nationalities and others under a 1990 law that shields immigrants from being deported to countries engulfed in conflict or natural disasters. While appreciated, I'm not sure how useful this might be. Trump's first victim will likely be Haitian and Panamanian immigrants who aren't covered by this protection, alongside Muslim, homeless, and trans people. The next 4 years are going to be rough. Will I be doing this show from Panama? Actually, I am a naturalized American citizen. But if he gets to overturn the 14th Amendment, who knows what happens thereafter? Who knows what happens? Do we get our citizenship, those of us who are naturalized, revoked? Hey, I don't know. But the truth of the matter is, I don't think we are in much danger of that because that puts the world order in danger. Okay, let's see what else we got here. Joe says there is no simple and true. It should be like a schoolhouse rock after school cartoon for adults. Awesome. Let's see if Eric is going to give us something that didn't come from the right wing propaganda machine, because I do not read any of Eric's regurgitations that actually are for all practical purposes, nonsensical. So I don't kind of pollute our base, our podcasts with that kind of information. But sometimes he comes out with something good. I don't see any yet. Let's see. Let's go ahead. We have Paul Fleming is in the house from Atlanta. I mean, from Powder Springs, Georgia. Thank you for being here, Paul. Let's see. Joe says, and the other way to explain is that the greenhouse effect is the way your heat up. It's the way your car heats up in the sun. The heat gets in, but changes wavelengths and can't get out, bounce around. Yeah. Well, what happens is it comes in ultraviolet and others, and then it turns into infrared as it heats up the material, your dark material, etc. It becomes infrared, and you can see it with an infrared detector, but you're right. The frequency changes, and it doesn't go out that quite. That quite. Anyway, folks, before I get started with the official what we're going to talk about, I want to point out something that is very, very important. You know, all the talks about TikTok is going to be gone. When is TikTok going to be gone? On Monday, I believe, the 19th. When is the 19th? Is that Monday or Sunday? Let's see. The 19th is Sunday. So TikTok's last day of existence, I think, is Sunday, barring the Supreme Court coming and ruling against how it seems they're going to rule. And then there was a study that was featured today on MSNBC. I think it's been out for a little while now, that says TikTok brainwashes people. TikTok brainwashes people. That is hogwash, right? They said the way they figured out TikTok brainwash people is that people who use TikTok have a higher fondness for China than does the average American citizen that isn't informed by TikTok. And if you search for items like the Uyghurs and others on TikTok, that somehow you don't find it's hard to find information or people who talk about Uyghurs, and that may be true. But the thing about what we try to teach in school is something known as critical thinking. I don't use TikTok as my sole source of information or as the final source that I get my information from. What TikTok does often for me is it wets my tongue because it is such an open platform, such a free-form platform, that somebody may say something, they may give and articulate an entire subject, and I go ahead and research it. And if it makes sense, or not only makes sense, but if it's true, I bring it to my audience as something that I found on TikTok. And then I give credit to the person or the influencer on TikTok who actually gave the information. I think it's a great resource. I mean, if you want to be honest about it, there is no greater brainwashing in America today than our standard history and government books that we have, that we learn from. The largest source of indoctrination and brainwashing is by our own history books. Anybody wants to call in and discuss that? 281-823-7747. But let me give an example. This is what the people who are against TikTok, who says we get a softer feeling for China because we can't find all the things that China has done, which makes them a human rights disaster. I reverse that. Who looks at the pilgrims and the settlers in America with fondness? Don't we look at the settlers and the founders of America with fondness? And why do we look at them with fondness? Because we brainwash our citizenry, and in brainwashing our citizenry, we have a soft feeling for those people who committed genocide. You don't see us really hating on any founding father, even as they were slave owners. And the reason why is we were brainwashed into the context of how we discuss these issues. If any country right now is hurting their people in there that's considered minorities or otherwise, we would actually have a very negative narrative on them. We don't talk about the laws that we effected in this country where we called the Chinese offsprings of the Chinese white mixtures, for those who decided that they were going to have Chinese, marriages, etc., that the Chinese woman or man went to jail and that they referred to their kids as scoundrels. And I mean, we don't talk about that. And that isn't all that history so far removed. You want to get a little bit closer? We don't talk about what we did to our people with redlining as we should, because all those people, many pastors and others that we look up to, if our history books told the history with the narrative, the proper narrative, we probably wouldn't have the fond view of America. China does nothing different than America. China is a communist capitalist country. We are a pseudo-democratic capitalist country. And China elects people by using certain methodologies. We elect people by brainwashing them. After all, we've just elected a convicted felon. We just elected somebody who hold women crotches and brags about it. We still elected that person. So it is important for us to be careful when we're trying to say TikTok is brainwashing people. No, a ByteDance, as whose owners are, predominantly Chinese, if they decide they don't want to put as a private company, if they don't want to emphasize the Uyghurs, the bad things the Chinese have done to their different groups in there, it's no different than we are not taught. We were trying to revise history in Texas, where we actually said that that the slave trade, we didn't call it a slave trade in the book. We called it visitors, or we gave it some crazy name for the slave trade in Texas books until a parent caught it to say, this is revising history. So anybody who wants to call in right now and talk to me about TikTok is brainwashing American kids because they get a soft feeling about China. That's what we do about America. Those of us who are overseas, we hear about America, and one of the reasons we come over here is we don't hear the things in America. We hear the good parts of America. And all those people flooding to get to America, many a times, they don't know the history. They don't know that as they can come here, that if they come here looking like me, they have tribulations that they must overcome. Is it a great country? Of course it is. But is China a great country? Of course it is. Does China have flaws? Yes, it does. Does America have flaws? Yes, it does. Is America and China in competition? There absolutely are. Are people happy in China? Yes, they are. Are people happy in America? Yes, they are. Does most Chinese feel like they are under the unfree? No, they don't. Do most Americans feel unfree? No, they don't. I feel free enough to talk about this on air. And so let's be clear here. In America, we do a hell of a lot of brainwashing. That's the only reason capitalism can exist. Capitalism is an exploitative economic system, and you have to brainwash people into thinking, well, it has created wealth all over the world. No, it has extracted wealth from all over the world and shared it with a section of the world as it exploited the rest of the world. I'm not China, Africa should be the richest country bar none based on its size, which is bigger than, I believe, America, North America, South America, and Central America combined, if I recall correctly, or close by. And with the natural resources that it has, it should be the richest country on the planet. But it's not, because violence from people who came in there to exploit them do it. France could not exist as a rich country without Africa. And that's why Benin and all these other countries that they are in control of, they made sure to force them to use a sort of French money, where all these monies have to go through French banks. And now that we have leaders in these former French colonies seeing the light and saying, France, go home, they're panicking because they understand they used Africa as a way to get rich, exploit them, just like we use the bodies of American citizens. Capitalism uses the bodies of American citizens to enrich people on a tiered system. And that tiered system is done in order to self-maintain. Again, but you don't learn that in school. There are people talking about that on TikTok, people talking about that on YouTube, people talking about Instagram. Are you going to shut down YouTube and Instagram for telling Americans the truth? I don't think so. I don't think so. All right, let's continue here. I'd love to see if anybody. Let me see if anybody has anything that they want to add to that. I saw someone on TikTok who was shocked Elon didn't understand the issues in California since he is an accomplished engineer. He's not as very smart. Elon Musk is not very smart. There are people who come out there and said they looked at a piece of code he wrote and wondered, how is this guy in charge of? Look, let me finish reading. He said, my God, how do people still believe this? Elon Musk has a degree in economics. He has no STEM training, no STEM degree, no engineering training, and has invented exactly 0 things. He buys things and takes the credit. This is not shade against the guy. It's reality of the situation. Exactly. Exactly. And the same it is with most billionaires. Capitalism is an exploitative thing where you are our antiseptic slaves. All of you are our antiseptic slaves. That's what capitalism tells you. But it's hard, it's hard to accept that, right? It's hard to accept the truth that, and I put it when I talk about capitalism and with respect to TikTok and all of that, the reason I use those terms are exactly to get you thinking. Because whenever you use a term in America like slave, the first thing that happens is the majority population, the white population, those that are, not necessarily critically thinking, they would say, yeah, those people of color, specifically black folks, I don't need to worry about that. I am an American, right? I'm an American. We're a capitalist country, right? And then when I put it in the form of antiseptic slavery, whereas it no longer looks like this, but it looks like every time you walk out of your house, the people that you see. It is hard to stomach that, but it is an absolute truity. It's an absolute truth that we here are nothing but antiseptic slaves. And when we get that into our psyche, when we start to understand that reality, we will start taking command. We will start saying, we'll accept this no more. And we will start building a truly equitable society, a free enterprise society where we all coexist, you know, where we all coexist. Like I tell folks all of the time, I've written, I've sat down and written a few books on this. People always say, if you talk about this stuff, do something about it. Well, you know what? I did. I try to keep the information flowing. I have this book called How to Make America Utopia. How to Make America Utopia. And the reason why is people think it's not possible. It is possible. It is doable. By the way, folks, anybody who's subscribed to my Substack channel as a paid subscriber can read all 5 of my books completamente gratis, completely free of charge. And by doing that, you're helping me and this network do what we're doing, and that is to inform. All right, let me go back to reading what folks are saying. So true, Egberto, the founding fathers were genocidal maniacs. I won't call all of them that. Some were. I mean, the fact that we had to create the 3/5 compromise, that always irks me. The fact that to get a constitution that included all 13 colonies, that we had to sacrifice the humanity of some, right? For I mean, it is it is, in my opinion, unforgivable. But that's where we're at. That's what we did. And TikTok points all this out. YouTube, you can find all people talking some truths. So when people talk about, oh, they're making people feel good about China, or they're not talking about China in detail, is America talking about America as they should talk about America? Are we talking about what we've done in Africa? Are we talking about what we've done in Haiti? Are we talking about what we've done in Panama? Or are we talking about what we've done in the Dominican Republic? And you see, most Americans know nothing about these. No critical thinking, right? And it's not because it's not their fault. It's not their fault at all. It is, again, the brainwashing that we do in this country, just like these organizations accuse ByteDance and other countries are doing it. Every country tries to put itself in the best light. The problem is when your not so best light is very compromised, it is something to watch. Paul Fleming says, we are voluntarily entering the dark ages. How can adults suddenly not understand how water pressure works? You can't drive down a highway without seeing water towers. LA did not run out of water. It ran out of water pressure when its tanks towers ran dry. Water then has to be pumped up, refill them to create the pressure. There is a single city in America with a water system that, I mean, look, let me tell you, when you see those big water towers distributed all over, what it is to maintain pressure in those pipes, maintain liquid in those pipes. Because you have a pipe of a certain diameter. If everybody's tapping off of that pipe and you don't have intermediate, in a system, this water towers are known as capacitors, right? In other words, whenever one particular area in the piping system is lacking of water, it brings the water into that flow. And yeah, thank you for pointing that out, Paul Fleming. The truth is, most Americans don't learn that in school. It's not taught. We have progressively taught less and less. It takes less and less to get through school, which it has always been my biggest fear. When I remember when I came to the States, there were some, when we compare the curriculums, we thought it was farcical. In fact, I think I've given the story about going from the Latin American schools, doing my last 2 years in the American schools on the Canal Zone in our apartheid system, and Panamanians sort of like blew away the first 13, 14 positions. We're no smarter than anybody else. We are no smarter than anybody else. But by design, by design, our our plutocracy via our government tries to keep us uninformed, ill-informed. I know it's hard to take, but it's the truth. Lee the Bearcat says, why does America have to let China or Russia own companies here, but they won't let American companies on their social or media waves? You know, it's interesting, right? That is a narrative that people would like to put out there. That, well, why do we allow the China to come in here? But you know why? Because Americans say that they want it, and Americans claim that they have freedom. China, when Bezos go over to China, or these other guys go over to China, they play by the Chinese rule. Look, it is okay for the government to shut down ByteDance. That is okay. We have the legal right as a country to do that. And China will have the legal right to find some other method of retaliation. They get the benefits of us with TikTok. We get other benefits by manufacturing things in China and distributing our pollution to China as opposed to here. Hey, look, it's a free flowing thing. So I am not saying we don't have the right to do that. I'm saying we do. I'm just saying it's kind of silly to do it, and the excuses that you're using to do it makes no sense. So Lee the Bearcat, if we want to get rid of TikTok, which is a hell of a platform, which a lot of people built their entire businesses on TikTok, that is okay for them to do. But remember what you're doing as well. You're killing thousands of people who've made millions of dollars on TikTok. Let me give you another caveat because I learned this the hard way. And I digress from what the subject of the day is, but I want this is to inform other influencers, other people that are thinking about being influencers, other people that are thinking about doing what I'm doing. And like I said, we need a lot of people doing what I'm doing right now to inform more brothers and sisters. But when I left my software company to do this, it was not all completely altruistic. Yes, it was altruistic, but not completely. My company was still making a lot of money. I simply was going through the motions, the capitalist motion. That's all I was doing. Going through the capitalist motion, doing whatever was necessary to make a whole bunch of money. But at the same time, my passion has always been I want to leave a better country for my daughter. I want to make a better country. And right now, this isn't it. And I've told you stories about selling a license and watching Boeing pay $10,000 like that for a license that I asked for. And in my head, I was like, damn, no, in Panama, we're accustomed to negotiating and all of that. That was the first offer, and they jumped on it. And I'm thinking down, I thought I had two thoughts. I was stupid for making it so cheap. And number two, man, I was evil for doing that. In as much as it's my product, I developed it, I wrote it, all the works. But then I realized what was going on. The way American companies in the capitalist system work, that was just going to be passed on to the consumer, the people who have no pricing power. So with my software business, even as I developed absolutely everything, you can look it up, Willie's Computer Software Company. I developed everything, including some of the hardware. I actually block diagrammed some of those hardwares and had it made in Taiwan. Okay. And I just felt, and I may be an idiot, but I just felt nasty many times with that business model. So my website started doing very well with the politics and the blogs that I was writing. I was blogging under a pseudonym. After my daughter went to college, I started to blog in my real name and do other things, right? And then when I paid off all my bills, I could survive on my website. And in one day, corporate structure, corporate America, decided that they were going to change the algorithm to benefit the plutocracy. And in one day, I lost 90% of my income. I learned something, and this is what a lot of TikTokers are going to learn today or learn on the 19th if it shuts down. Whenever you don't control your platform, whenever your sole dependency is on some plutocratic platform, they own you. And you can make $1 million today and tomorrow make zero. So one of the books that I'm writing now is about platforming, right? And platforming means, look, we still are codependent on others. Just that goes without saying. But you have to make sure that you're platformed all over, because you have to be prepared that sometime somebody is going to shut some part of you down. So Facebook, I used to be just platformed on and Facebook and YouTube. Somebody messed around with my YouTube channel and I lost monetization on YouTube for a long time. And when I gained it back, it was good for a while. And then what happened? Then what happened? 90% gone. And it was like a conspiracy, because around the same time, I lost 90% of my income from Facebook as well. I still don't have any income from Facebook for all practical purposes, and just a little from YouTube for all practical purposes. And then all the ads that Google used to serve via AdSense, 90% gone. I was a slave to their platform. I sat down and it's like, no more Willie's Computer Software Company. Came onto this platform, lost all the revenue sources. What am I going to do? And the idea was, well, this work is more important than trying to revive something else that you've had. And the truth is, I've had several companies, and everyone started from ground zero to grow up. That's what I did with this one. So instead of doing that, I said, okay, it's going to be multi-platform. It's going to be YouTube, Facebook, Patreon, PayPal, you name the platform, every single piece, so that instead of getting a bunch from one, you get a little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit there, a little bit there. You go to your audience and you say, if you believe in what we're doing, subscribe, become a paid subscriber, help the cause from a plutocracy who owns us. And you know what? Slowly, we are building back up. It's taken years, but slowly we're building back up. We're not anywhere close, but we're building up. The direction is positive. The reason I'm telling you that story is because this applies directly to TikTok. What the government has done, if they shut down TikTok on Sunday, is there will be a lot of mouths that used to be fed by TikTok that are going to be gone empty. There are a lot of people making $1,000 a month, $2,000 a month, $5,000 a month, and I'm talking about thousands of people on TikTok that are doing that. And that is their income. They spend time, you may think what they're doing is foolish, but isn't putting a ball in a hole foolish as well, right? We don't mind seeing a guy who jumps with, who skips the ball and puts it into a hole. He makes millions. The guy who invented the TV that allows him to make millions by transmitting those signals to studios, etc., they don't make diddly squat comparatively. That's capitalism. They used to call capitalism, well, they call capitalism the efficient allocation of resources. Really? The guy who invented TV, the guy who invented the way to move the signals over, the guy who invented all these things that allows Oprah Winfrey or Kobe Bryant or all these guys to be stars that people like. The face gets the money, but the folks who make it possible don't get it. Capitalism is not the efficient allocation of resources. It's the efficient exploitation of resources. We exploit the engineer. We exploit the developer. We exploit the inventor. And the capitalists make the money. Lee, the Bearcat, you're right. A lot of influencers will be on unemployment come Sunday. You're absolutely right. Lee Grant says, I see some Democrats and people on the left are warming up the possibility that Trump is not really Antichrist or Hitler. If you find any Democrat that believes that, let them know that they're just a step below a fool. Bridgeberg says the bureaucracy keeps the country moving and our freedoms intact. Without it, America would be a third world country. Let's see, what was that in reply to? I'm not sure what that was in reply to. But anyhow, he will soon prove them to the opposite. Yeah, I mean, Trump is that is exactly where it's going. All right, what else have we got here? Let me go up there. Patrick Manage says he is trying to live out a book written by a Nazi, yeah, Mein Kampf, right? Nazi that said we needed to live on multiple planets. Bruce Pollard says Kirchhoff's law of ether flow. You see, you're gonna bring something I know nothing about, Bruce. All right, let me go back up instead of reading from behind. It seems like I need to kind of get down to the bottom here. All right. Arab people did a number on Africa well before Europeans. Um, I don't know what the point is of that statement, really. I don't know what the point is of that statement, Lee Grant. I really don't. Let's see what else we got here. Let me get an original thought. Patrick details. Okay. Let's see what Patrick was talking about that Rudnin wants details from. I don't see it, but let me continue. Okay. I see some. Okay. All right, let's get busy with another item here. I was perusing TikTok as I do in the mornings. Believe it or not, I love TikTok. I love TikTok and I like it better than I do Instagram because I find TikTok to have more professors, more historians, more people that are substantive on TikTok. I mean, a lot of it has to do with who you follow. Okay, let's before I go to I'm going to take on Patrick. Hey Patrick, how you doing, my brother?
is taking notes.
Let me
Doing
turn
fine.
off
I'm,
that
I'm
AI
just
notes
a
taker.
minute or two behind on the video. I'm not calling it a bad time, am I?
Yeah, talk to me, brother.
Hey, you're talking about the Nazi book. I'm being serious. Tom Hartman did a story on it. Elon was named after a Mars colony that Nazis found that was already there when they went to colonize Mars. They weren't the first ones, and Elon's grandfather and father both loved that book, and he's trying to live that out.
Wouldn't surprise me at all. The guy's a nutcase, and you know what gets me is that people so much want to have some sort of a wealthy savior that's sort of like them that they fall for this guy who's nothing more than a parasite, really. But I didn't know that. I didn't listen to Tom. Was that on Tom today or?
No, it's a ways back. I can send it, and then I looked it up, and I've read a summary of the book and everything. The book was written in 1952, but it's serious. And this is a man that is trying to use money to bend the entire world in a direction where he can live out a work of fiction.
Got you.
It,
Well, Michael was kind of giving me up to speed on what you had to say. So now that you're here to say it live, it's great for all those who didn't see it in the chat between when Redden asked you for an update on that. But I tell you, Patrick, this TikTok thing I think is going to get a whole lot of people upset. A lot of people still don't believe it's going to happen on Sunday. They're still thinking somehow they're going to get out of it. I don't know what's your thought on that.
I think more than anything, they're most countries are moving in the direction of authoritarianism. There's over 70 countries that are considered being run by authoritarianism or authoritarian leaders, and they don't like democracy. They don't like uncensored
The news,
communication.
or yeah,
And
message.
yeah, I mean, an ordinary citizen can pick up their phone and show the world what's happening outside of their door, and they can
Right.
actually tell people what's happening in their country, and that scares the heck out of a lot of these leaders.
Yes, yes,
I
yes,
don't think that we're
yes.
the only ones that want it gone.
Right. It's
I
interesting
followed.
because go ahead.
I was going to say I followed a woman until she got so scared she left. But there was a Russian woman that had a UK SIM card, and so she was able to stay on TikTok. They had banned TikTok there, but her phone was registered in the UK, and she reported on it. And I learned a lot from her.
Let me ask you, are
She
you
was
saying
she was
that
talking to. Go
TikTok is
ahead.
banned in the UK right now?
No, no, no. She had a SIM card that was for the UK, but she was living in Russia.
Gotcha.
And so she was able to use TikTok
Gotcha.
while it was banned in Russia. And so
Gotcha.
she was reporting, and she was also interviewing her neighbors, and it was showing how little the first 6 months in the war, how little they actually knew. And she was asking them questions like, well, when it comes time for us to pay to rebuild that country, you know who's going to pay for that? And you could just see people's faces where they just had never even thought about it.
Gotcha.
It
Gotcha.
it was she was a powerful reporter, and she had no degree in journalism or anything. She was just interested in sharing the truth and letting other people in the world know what was going on. And I think that
Yeah.
that's what one of the big things that they're trying to ban.
Well, let me just say that's one of the things that we've been talking about in some of these progressive activist groups. How do we get around? Because now we have Facebook that is bowing to Trump. We also have X that has already bowed to Musk. We also have TikTok that they're trying to get rid of. The idea is to the information sources that they have aren't fact checked, so that is to continue to brainwash. Number one, and number two, getting rid of TikTok, which would not have fallen into that domain, handles that portion of the bill. So here's what a message I have to everybody. First of all, it is time for us to share information with our trusted sources. I think my Substack subscriber list is about 16,000. I'm just one person, and there are a lot of other folks that, yes, we have overlapping lists, but we also have independent that parts that are not overlapping, which is a good thing. I want to ask anybody who listens to this to go to politicsdoneright.com/newsletter, whether you become a paid subscriber or not, just subscribe so that we have access to you, right? Um, just
I,
subscribe so
I
we have
bought two.
access. Say that again.
I bought I bought two subscriptions for one for a girlfriend and one for a family member for Christmas. So
Yeah, I love
um,
that. I love that. I love that. Yeah, if you want to pay for a subscription for friends, that is great as well, folks. But we need a lot of paid subscribers. But what I also want are just subscribers as well to be able to keep building this list because they can control the algorithm with what you see, right? They can do that. What they can't control easily is you getting emails from point A to point B. Once you have internet access, you can tunnel to anybody. You can tunnel to a anonymous server that gets the email to the places it needs to get to. And once we have that, it's a lot harder for them to hold on to the pipe. But it's now a direct to direct. So like I said, we have about I want to get us up to 30,000 or more by the end of this year. But what I need is about 3,000 paid subscribers, and we're just close to about 10% of that. So folks, please become a paid subscriber by going to politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. Anything else you want to say, brother? And Magner, thank you for being a great supporter of you. I mean, you support several of our platforms actually. Thank you for that.
I think it's worth it.
Yeah.
Real quick in the beginning, we were talking about global warming. It's very, very easy, and they show this in classes that they teach online. You can fill a tank with, or like a glass fish tank, with CO2 slowly, and you can pass a UV laser and an infrared laser through that, and then you can start adding CO2 to it, and you can read on the other end where the intensity of that light drops dramatically as you add CO2 to it. So you have to ask yourself, okay, well, if the light isn't getting through there, then it's changing, and if it's changing, we don't create or destroy energy. It just changes.
It builds
and
up.
so
Yeah.
it heats the atmosphere, and heat cannot escape a vacuum. That's why that tumbler that you use stays cold, because there's a vacuum in between there. And so once light is converted to heat on this planet, it cannot escape. It's not going anywhere. And so we're accumulating more and more of that. And you need to think, okay, well, if we're burning all this crude, and the amount of crude that we burn is mind blowing. When that takes a phase change from a liquid to a gas, that gets much more immense. And you have to think, all that mass that was in the earth is now in the atmosphere. And whenever something becomes more massive, it holds more heat.
Exactly.
That's why a marble floor will feel colder or hotter than the air around it.
You know what is also interesting as well? People don't. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, the idea of global warming is actually extremely simplistic. It doesn't have to be made any harder than I just explained to you.
Exactly. Well, look, Patrick, thank you very much. I want to play a piece on that I found on TikTok this morning, so that the folks can hear it. Maybe it'll touch a few Christians, but we'll see. All right.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Thank you, my brother. All right, folks. I want to play something for you that I found quite intriguing on TikTok today. Like I said, TikTok has great algorithms if you want to follow professors, etc., that sort of stuff, and it works out pretty well. I want you to listen to this. Let me set it up. As you know, as Trump is coming into office, the thing he wants to do is get rid of the immigrants. He doesn't only want to get rid of the immigrants. He also wants to cut Social Security so that he can give tax breaks. They don't believe in a state that has social services for people. They think everybody needs to become those antiseptic slaves that are there for the billionaires and the billionaires only. That's what they believe. And everything that they're doing, they have taught their people that being crude, being evil, being hurtful, being hateful is vogue. And I saw this TikTok today from a woman who is married to a theologian who broke it down perfectly. So what I want to do now is have you listen to this.
I find it fascinating how poorly American Christians understand the theology that they supposedly ascribe to. When I said that you as Christians should understand why your friends and relatives have created a boundary, distanced themselves from you because you voted against their safety, their human rights, you demonstrated that you are an unsafe person, that should have made sense to you, considering the fact that your own God, your own scripture, says that the wages of sin is death, and all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. And the just punishment for those sins, for even one tiny sin, having even one tiny impure or hateful thought, is eternal separation from God. So you, above all people, should understand what just and righteous boundaries look like. And in response to that,
What I want to point out there is, notice she set it up perfectly. She set up that as Christians, you should know these things. Should we excuse folks for not knowing these things? Well, like I said, in a lot of these evangelical churches, their their pastors are their gods. So what we have to do is hope that narratives like this get to their people. I want to continue because this part that she's going to say from a person who contacted her is important.
This person, Lucy Hargrove, said, Christians understand we are all sinners and fall short of God's grace. Okay, I will not get into how that is not what grace means. Okay, sure, I will. Grace means unmerited favor. There's nothing you could do to earn it or to measure up enough to deserve it. That's the very nature of grace. Bet you didn't know you were getting into an argument with the spouse of someone who has a master's in theology, a couple of ex-Presbyterian Church in America theology nerds. I'm perfectly happy to quote scripture at you all day long. Since you said I misrepresented Christianity in my original video, I want to continue to read your follow-up comment and explain how it is flawed. You said, we believe in repentance and forgiveness. Quote, one tiny sin does not separate you from God. It does though. It does though. That's the whole premise of Christianity. We, totally depraved human beings, are eternally separated from God and deserve his just punishment. We are marred by sin and therefore unworthy of being in his presence. That foundational theological concept is what makes Jesus' substitutionary atonement on the cross necessary. According to your religion, my former religion, had we gotten what we deserved, what we had earned, it would be the wages of our sin, which would be death, which would be eternal separation from God. The consequences of our actions, the result of our total depravity, should be total separation. And you believe that for the vast majority of humans, it is. It is only for the small number of the elect, or if you're not a former Calvinist, believers, to whom God's unmerited favor, i.e. grace, is extended, that the path of forgiveness is even available. You have done nothing to earn your righteousness or your position in God's presence, according to your religion. But need I remind you, Christian who voted for Trump, Christian who thinks they are righteous, before him shall be gathered the nations, and he shall divide as a shepherd divides his flock, the sheep from the goats, the sheep at his right hand and the goats at his left. The king will say to those at his right hand, come, O blessed of my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you at the foundation of the world. For I was hungry, and you gave me food. I was thirsty, and you gave me drink. I was a stranger, and you welcomed me. I was naked, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you visited me. I was in prison, and you came to me. And the righteous will answer him, Lord, when were you hungry, and we fed you? When were you thirsty, and we gave you drink? When were you a stranger, and we welcomed you? When were you naked, and we clothed you? And when were you in prison, and we went to see you? And the king will respond, truly, whatever you did for the least of these, you did it for me. And then to those on his left hand, he will say, depart from me, you damned, into the eternal hellfire created for you by the devil and his angels. For I was hungry, and you gave me no food. I was thirsty, and you gave me no drink. I was a stranger, and you did not welcome me. I was naked, and you did not clothe me. I was sick and in prison, and you did not visit me. And they will say to him, Lord, when did we see you hungry or thirsty or a stranger or naked or in prison or sick? And he will say, truly, as you did not do it for the least of these, you did not do it for me. And then they will go into eternal punishment and the righteous into eternal life. So you tell me, a person who voted to put immigrants in concentration camps and then deport them from this country, to take food benefits and Medicaid away from the poorest Americans, to end free school lunch for kids in poverty, to strip disabled veterans of their health care, to you, Christian, who voted for a candidate who will increase the suffering of every vulnerable person in America and everyone in the working class, you tell me if you sound like a sheep or a goat. I always find it fascinating how poorly American Christians.
And that is what is important. She nailed it. And you can't get a valid answer out of those folks who purport themselves to be Christians and voted for Donald Trump, knowing what Donald Trump would do. Because it's not like he didn't tell them. But again, they gave their folks a double whammy. The lack of critical thinking, not understanding that if you are going to give a $2 trillion tax cut based on how we have laid out our economic system, there are people who are going to pay for it through Medicaid, Medicare, through higher interest rates. In a lot of different ways, people are going to be paying for that. That's evil. There's another TikTok that I saw. This one was animated, where one of these MAGA Christians decided to go to. They're getting their paperwork done for heaven, and the person at the gates are asking them questions. Did you feed the immigrant? Well, the Bible didn't say I had to use my tax dollars to do it, and they just went down the list. And when they're saying, "Okay, I'm ready to go to heaven now," person looked at him and said, "Okay, go to hell." Here is the thing. Here is the thing. America has made a crucial mistake this time, even more so than in 2016, because we knew what this guy was. We knew that he got a lot of Americans killed with COVID. We knew that he was a thief. We knew all these things, and we allowed our sexism and racism under the cloak of the economy to reelect a thug like this. Unfortunately, as another influencer that I was watching said, unfortunately, it seems like they don't understand that they're not sticking it to the libs. They're sticking it to themselves. After all, the libs in the aggregate are better off than they are, and likely will weather the storm better than they will. Poetic justice, isn't it? Poetic justice. Anyway, I had another subject to cover. I'll probably touch on that tomorrow, but we are currently out of time. I want to ask everybody to consider becoming subscribers to our Substack. That is our newsletter. And to do that, become a paid subscriber. Please go to politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. That is politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. Please become a paid subscriber if you have the wherewithal to do so. And as our brother Patrick Mannion said, consider buying a subscription as well for a family member. But no matter what, please go ahead to that address and join our newsletter. We send out quite a bit of essays. We send out good stuff. Good stuff. Just take a look at. In fact, if you want to see what the site looks like, you can simply go to https egberto.substack.com, and that takes you to directly to my Substack. And let me show you what it looks like. That is the main Substack. That's all articles from the newsletter. We also have, let me do a quick walkthrough. Of what you get, okay? If you become a subscriber, of course, everybody gets this, but this link here opens up for you, which is called the My Books link, and that gives you access to all of our books that you can actually go and read every chapter in all our books. If you want to see something like, let's say, As I See It, Class Warfare, you can see all the chapters are laid out in the book, so that is ready for you to read all our books. Likewise, all our podcasts are cleaned up, and you can just click on the podcast screen and you see all our podcasts well and cleaned up. Take out all the haze and normalize it, etc., for you to see. Subscribers get access to this section of our website. Then, of course, we have special links where you will get other features that we're going to have. So please consider going to politicsdoneright.com/newsletter and become a paid subscriber, or go to egberto.substack.com and click subscribe, become a paid subscriber. Anyway, I got to get out of here. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. And you guys know how I end this baby. I am what? Out. Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right.